Hello, ladies and gents, and this is the walking talking mock for the paper one that you sat earlier on this year. Okay, so question one, we had to do 1.83 multiplied by 47. Now, in all questions where you multiply with decimals, the first thing that we do is we get rid of the decimals. So we multiply 183 by 47. You don't get any marks for this, but at least you know what to do to start off with. You're going to need to multiply these two together, so in whichever way you want. I usually break it down to 100, 80, and 3, multiplied by 40 and 7. And then we work out each individual box. So 100 times 40 is 4,000. 4 times 8 is 32, and there's 1, 2 zeros there. You've got 40 times 3, which is 120. So that adds up to 7,320. Do the same for the bottom row. So that's going to be 700, it's going to be 560, and it's going to be 21. So if we add that together, that's going to be 1,281. Obviously, I'm not expecting you to do it this quickly, but it's just that we can get through all the questions. We then add these two together. So 0 plus 1 is 1, 8 plus 2 is 10, so 0 carried the 1. 3, 2 plus the carried over 1 is 6, plus we got 8. So 8601. However, we are asked to multiply 1.83. So if we see this, there are two decimal places in this question. So from the answer, there needs to be two decimal places. So if we count from the back, that's 2 decimal places. So therefore, the decimal point needs to go here, leaving you 86.01. Now, if you can do that, that's going to be the first 3 marks of the paper. Now, the second question was on scatter diagrams. So I should say at this point, so I'm not expecting you to go through all of this all in one hit. What I expect you to do is pause it at various times, make notes, rewind different bits, skip to certain questions that you had difficulties with. But if you do this for this paper and any subsequent paper, you will make extraordinary progress. Okay, so this was question 2. And it says the scatter graph shows information about 10 apartments in the city. Now the first thing we had to do is we had to put the 2 pieces of information in. So we've got this piece of information here. So that was the distance from the city centre was 2 kilometres and the monthly rent was 250. So if we go across on the x-axis to 2 and up to 250, we get that there. We then have to do 3.1 and 190. So we go across to 3.1, which is right there, up to 190. And we can notice that as we go up here, each one of these is worth 10. There's 10 of them in between 100 and 200, so each one is going to be worth 10. So 3.1, 190, and we get that there. That's going to be the first mark. Describe the relationship between the distance from the city centre and the monthly rent. You get the mark for saying negative correlation. It's not really what they're asking, but you get the mark for saying it anyway. The relationship that they're actually looking for is that as the distance from the city centre increases, we can see that the monthly rent decreases. So for instance, someone with a low distance from the city centre is a high monthly rent. Someone with a high distance from the city centre is a low monthly rent. So we're looking for an answer either of negative correlation or the further away from the city centre, the lower your monthly rent. Now, the final part, this is worth 2 marks, is an apartment is 2.8 kilometres from the city centre. So 2.8 kilometres is 2.5, 2.6, 2.7, 2.8 is right there. And we've got to find an estimate for the monthly rent for this apartment. Now, the first thing we want to do here is we want to draw a line of best fit. Whenever we've got a scatter diagram, even if it doesn't ask for it, do a line of best fit. Now, the line of best fit will be a line that goes through the majority of the data through the middle. So I'd say roughly from there to there, I'd say. Or if you want to make it a straight line, about that there. That'd be your line of best fit. So now what we're asked to do is find 2.8 kilometers from the city. So we go up from 2.8 kilometers, and then we read across here, and we get 220. Now, so my answer would be £220, but as long as I've done it from the line of best fit, I get 1 mark for it anyway. You get a mark for anywhere between 200 and 260. If you put 190 and you didn't do the line of best fit, you get 0 marks. If you did the line of best fit and you read it as 190, you'd still get 1 mark. Okay, question 3. We've got the questionnaire question here, and we have to write down 2 things that are wrong with it. There's 3 things to choose from here. The first thing I'll write down is that here the boxes overlap. So boxes overlap, and what they're looking for, they were looking for that word overlap. The second thing, and to do with the question, it says how much money you spend on buying CDs, but what does that mean? Does that mean every day, every week, every month? So there's no time frame. So no time frame would be another thing that's wrong with it. A possible third thing is that what about if you don't spend any money on CDs? So there's no option for less than £10. So you've got to pick any 2 from those 3. And even though if this question came up again, it would be slightly different, these 2 things here, or in fact these 3 things here, tend to come up almost every exam. Okay, the second part, Paula asked 100 people in a CD store to do a questionnaire. Her sample is biased. Explain why. Now, bias means that you're swaying towards one thing rather than another. So, for instance, if I preferred teaching my Year 11 class to my Year 10 class, I'd say I was biased towards Year 11. So here, Paula asked 100 people in a CD store how much they spend on CDs. The reason that's biased is because if people are in a CD store, they're there to buy CDs anyway. So, explain why a sample is biased is she needs to ask people that aren't in a CD store. So somehow you've got to make this point. You don't need to use those words, but you need to say that if people are in a CD store, they're there to buy CDs, so they're going to be biased. Okay, question 4. And a nice 4 marks this one. Complete the table of values for y equals 2x plus 5. So we always need to use this here. And whenever we sketch a graph, sometimes they'll give us this table of results here. Sometimes they won't. They'll ask you to do it yourself. But what we've got to use is this equation here, y equals 2x plus 5. And what that means is that we do 2 lots of our x number, and then we add 5. So here, our x number is 2. So 2 lots of 2 add 5 is 9. Here, our x number is 1. So we do 2 lots of 1, add 5, which is 7. And then we can do 2 lots of minus 1, which is minus 2, plus 5. But I think that's quite tricky. What I'd rather do, as soon as we get to the negative numbers, have a look at the pattern. So if we have a look at the pattern going in this direction, we've got 9, 7, 5. We can see it's going down in 2s each time. So the next one is likely to be 3. And if we continue, the next pattern after that is 1. So yeah, it all fits. What you then do is you plot these points. So the first point is 2, 9. So you go across 2 and then up 9. That's going to be that point there. Then 1, 7. 0, 5. Minus 1, 3. And minus 2, 1. Now very often in these cases, it is easy to make a mistake. And so if, for instance, this point here, you'd have put it instead of 0, 5, you'd have put it as 5, 0 over here. You could see that the other points don't, or the other points make a straight line, and this one doesn't lie in that straight line. So if any of your coordinates don't lie in a straight line, it means that you've made a mistake. So the very final mark, and one that people often forget, is to make sure that you join all the points together. And also make sure that your line goes through all the points, then keeps going. Don't make it stop at the first one and end at the last one. So make sure that you draw in the line at the end. Okay, question 5. We've got 5 terms of an arithmetic sequence. So we see that it's going up in sixes. Now, the first thing to do on a sequence question where it asks for the nth term is see what it goes up in each time. So that goes up in plus 6, plus 6, plus 6. So if it's going up in 6 each time, then the answer is going to look like 6n. That's going to get you your first mark. So if it's going up in sixes and it's 6n, then the next thing you do is you write the 6 times table. So 6, 12, 18, 24, and 30. Now the final part of this question is how do you get from your 6 times table to your sequence? And each time, to get from this one to this one, this one to this one, this one to this one, you've got to take away 3. So your answer is 6n take away 3. The second part to this is Ben right, because he says that 150 is in the sequence. If we have a look, the easiest way to do this is we have a look at the sequence. Now the sequence is 3, 9, 15, 21, and 27. So what you notice about that is that all of them are odd numbers, and he's asking is 150 in the sequence. So 150 is an even number, so you need to say no, as the sequence is odd numbers. However, what if they said is 151 in the sequence, as they often would? So what you do on a question like this is you set your nth term, 6n minus 3, and you set it equal to what they've asked for. So 6n minus 3, in this case, equals 150. Now if you can work that out, and it's a whole number, then it is in the sequence. If you can't, then it's not in the sequence. So 6n minus 3, so we then need to get rid of this minus 3, so we add it to the other side. So I've got 6n equals 153. N equals 153 divided by 6. Now, we can't do 153 divided by 6, so that turns out to be 25.5. So because it's a point something, it means that it doesn't lie in the sequence. Next question. You can use your conversion graphs to change between pounds and dollars. So the first question, nice and easy, is to convert £5 into dollars. So what we do is we go across to £5, and we go up from £5 to here, and then we go across to here. So we get $8. So we get $8 for that one. Now the next part caused people some difficulties when they did this question, and it's worth 4 marks. So we've got Ella, and she's got $200 in one pocket, and she's got £800 in the other pocket. Her hotel bill is $600. So imagine you had $200 and £800, and the hotelier asks you to pay $200. Asks you to pay $600. So your bill is $600. Well, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to give them the $200. So you're going to take away the $200 which you have on you, leaving you with a bill of $400. Now, you haven't got any dollars now, you've got £800. So what you're going to need to do, you're going to need to change up some of your £800. So I need to know what £800 is. So I could go up here, £800, and then read across. That's going to be quite tricky. Alternatively, what you could do is you can work out how much $400 is. Now, I know that $8, from our earlier question, I know that $8 equals £5. So therefore, $4, apologies, so $4 equals £2.50. So if $4 is £2.50, then $400 equals £250. £250. Now, Ella had £800 in her pocket. Now she's got to pay $400, which is the same as £250. So if she's got 800 and she pays 250, 800 take away 250 leaves us with $550. And that was question 6. Question 7 was an algebra question. So on questions like this, we've got 5x plus 4y plus x. So if we've got 5x plus 4y plus x minus 7y, what we're going to do is we're going to gather all the x's together. So I'm going to gather that x and this x. Notice that when I put these in circles, I include the sign that's before it as well. So I've got 5x plus x, which is going to be 6x. Notice that it's not 5x squared, because we're not multiplying. If we're adding together, we just add another one on top. Then we've got 4y, take away 7y. If you've got 4y's and you take away 7y's, you're going to end up with minus 3y. Question 7b was 7 lots of x plus 2, and that equals 7. You've got to solve it. So because it says solve, we want to end up with x equals something as our answer. So the first thing we do to get us our first mark, we need to multiply the brackets. So 7 lots of x gives us 7x. 7 lots of 2 gives us 14. So the first thing we would do is 7x plus 14 equals 7. The next thing we do is we take away 14 from both sides. So 7 take away 14 is minus 7. So 7x is a minus 7. So we've then got to divide by 7. So if 7x is a minus 7, 1x equals minus 1. Question 8. Trams leave Piccadilly to Eccles every 9 minutes, to Didsbury every 12 minutes. So we've got Eccles and we've got Didsbury. So that one tram, both leave at 9. So we've got 9 AM in the morning, and we've got a tram leaving to Eccles and Didsbury. Now the next train to Eccles is going to be at 9:09. The next one after that is going to be at 9:18, 9:27, 9:36, 9:45. I'm then going to do the same for the Didsbury one. So we're going to leave at 9, 9:12, 9:24, 9:36, 9:48. But then what you do is you have a look at both of the lists and see which one appears in both. So we've got 9:36 appearing in both, so therefore 9:36 is the answer. You're going to get your first mark for correctly doing a list for Eccles, second mark for correctly doing a list for Didsbury, and as long as you spot that you got 9:36 in both of them, you pick up your third mark. Now this one isn't very clear on here, but it's a to the power of 4 multiplied by a to the power of 5. Now when you multiply, what we need to do is we need to add the powers together. So we're going to get a to the power of 9. Next one, you had 45 e to the power of 6 f to the power of 8 over 5e f squared. Now the first thing we do in a question like this is we deal with the numbers. So we're going to do 45 divided by 5, which is going to leave us with 9. Just like the above question, when you're multiplying, we add the powers. Here we're dividing. So e to the power of 6 divided by e to the power of 1 is going to be e to the power of 5. Then we've got f to the power of 8 divided by f to the power of 2, which leaves us with f to the power of 6. For part C, we've got to work out the value of 9 to the power of a half. Now for this one, you just need to know that the power of a half means the square root. Now the square root means that something times by itself equals 9. So the answer for that one is just 3. Okay, question 10. Question 10, we've got to work out the size of this angle here, x. Now, it's quite a big question, and bear in mind, you've also got to give reasons for your answers. What I do though is just write down anything that you know. The first thing that you should be able to spot is here. We've got a z angle, but of course we're not allowed to call it a z angle. But if this one is 38 degrees, this one here is also going to be 38 degrees. But we can't call it a z angle. What we need to say is that it's an alternate angle. So we're going to get at least 1 mark for saying that. 1 for getting the correct angle down here, that's 38, and 1 for giving a reason. A lot of people don't give the reason, so they only pick up half the marks. Now the next thing to spot is that here we've got 38 degrees, and then we've got these 2 dashes here. These 2 dashes, if I colour them in green, these 2 dashes mean that it's an isosceles triangle, which means that this angle here and this angle here are the same. Now we should know that angles in a triangle add up to 180. So 180, and we take away the 38, which we already know, leaves us with 142 degrees. Now if we know that these 2 angles here are the same, they're both going to add up to 142, which means if we do 142 divided by 2, we get 71 degrees. So this angle here is 71 degrees, this angle here is 71 degrees. Now what I'd need to do, because I haven't given a reason for that, I'd need to say that these 2 are the same, and you're okay just to write it on the diagram as well. These 2 are the same as it is an isosceles triangle. Now the last thing we need to say is we've got to work out what angle x is. Now here we've got a straight line, we've got 71 degrees here, so therefore the other side of it is going to make it add up to 180. So 180 minus 71 degrees equals 109 degrees. And what I'd do is I'd say because angles on a straight line add up to 180. Question 11. Now, this one's quite a big question, but it's a reasonably okay 5 marks, because a lot of people have done percentages. So each month, Greg's wages are made up of this. So you've got £530 basic pay. So whatever happens, what that means was whatever happens, he takes away £530. He then sells car insurance, and for every car insurance he sells, he gets 5%. And for every home insurance he sells, he gets 10%. So that's going to be the bonus he earns on top. So we're going to have £530 plus his car insurance plus his home insurance. So what we're going to do is we're going to work out what each of them is. So he gets 5% from his car insurance. So car insurance, he sells each one for £200. So 10% of that equals £20. So 5% of that equals £10. So therefore, for every car insurance he sells, he gets £10. Now it says down here that he sells 6 of them. So 6 lots of 10 is going to be £60. So he has £60 for the car insurance that he sells. And he gets 10% of the cost of all the home insurance. So home insurance is £350. So 10% of that is going to be £35. Now he sells 4 of these. So 4 lots of 35. 4 times 35. Times it by 4 is quite an easy one to do. You double it, then double it again. So that's going to be at £140 for that. So he's got his basic pay here. He's got his bonus from his car insurance here. He's got his bonus from his home insurance there. So if we then add all those together, 0, 3, carry another one, 730. So it's £730.